All right, so we've talked a little bit about, or maybe a little bit more than a little bit, about some religious revitalization movements. What else do you see as playing central roles in how it is that we go about protecting Native American communities, like we've been focusing on in this unit?
Well, I think that an interesting case in point is the fact that we've talked quite a bit in the course thus far about how federal legislation has usually gone against Native communities. Here, more recent events have created federal legislation that's designed specifically to protect Native rights. And I think the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act is a great example, in that this covers a lot of territory. It causes museums to have to share their inventories with Native peoples. A lot of times objects left communities that probably shouldn't have. And museum collections have religious, sacred objects, objects of particular cultural patrimony that really need to go back to these communities. So NAGPRA is this process that we're undertaking to engage in dialogue with Native communities and to decide exactly what will the dispensation be with respect to museum collections, not just past, but also current and future. So the ways in which we collect have changed dramatically. I think another example, we've talked about archaeology and its importance and the fact that new approaches to archaeology view Native people as partners in this process.
That was the word that occurred to me when you were talking before, right?
Yeah, it's in that, for example, you have to have a really good rationale for undertaking certain types of archaeological investigation. There's a Public Law 106 requires that cultural impact studies be undertaken, just like we do environmental impact studies for construction projects primarily that utilize federal funding, so that we make certain that we're not destroying our common cultural legacy through the destruction of archaeological sites in the name of progress.
Well, it sounds like getting us to that point required a bit of goading. So maybe we have to be told sometimes how it is that we could be good partners.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think that we oftentimes have to resort to legislation to find our moral compass, that we sometimes reach these impasses that we just can't seem to resolve on an individual or a nation-to-nation relationship. And I think that it's imperfect when we have to legislate morality and ethics, but sometimes that's the catalyst. And I think that NAGPRA is a great example. There was a lot of resistance, as you might imagine, when the law originally came out 20 years ago. But I think there isn't a museum professional nor anyone engaged with community heritage projects that wouldn't agree that an incredible number of positive aspects have emerged through this piece of legislation. And it provided us with a great trajectory for our work into the future.
Yeah. Well, the point that you make about legislating morality, I think is a fascinating one, especially as we head into our next section, because morality was used in many ways as the kind of basis for the legislation that we'll be talking about, especially the allotment of Indian lands. So how it is that morality shows up when it gets up to Capitol Hill, I think will be of keen interest.
I couldn't agree more.